Fovos, Dalby. David walked along the path, passing large oak and hazel trees as he went on with Wade, his Doberman Pinscher. David was a family man, aged 29, with brown stubble growing on his chin, and he hasn't shaved in a few days. "Christ, it's chilly," he murmured to Wade. The dog didn't respond as it trotted at his side, panting out faint clouds of breath from the 7 degrees air around them. The trees, plants, and bushes around them created horrible shadows and horrid shapes from the darkness of Dalby forest, which sometimes made David uneasy when he used to take Wade down here walking. David was wrapped in a thick coat with gloves and doggy treats and doggy bags in his right hand pocket. He didn't need a lead, as Wade was a very docile and tame dog who just loved walking.
"Watch that shit, Wade," he scowled. "And don't stick your nose in it," he grunted, as he saw the dog slow down out the corner of his eye and sniff a mysterious pile of dung. David couldn't make it out in the darkness of the late October night, but he thought it might be a large dog's poo, whose irresponsible owner couldn't be asked to clean it up. It had a pungent odour, which he noticed as he passed by. "Bloody hell, what kind of hound shat that one out," he thought. You could hear the sounds of cars only 2 to 3 miles away behind him, which was reassuring, as he hated walking in the dark sometimes. "Hope you're liking this," David remarked to Wade, as the dog looked up to him with a happy face on the mutt. Wade's coat was wet from the ferns and bushes they passed by. His paws were muddy and filthy. David's boots were the same. David always liked taking Wade out for a walk, especially at night, but in the cold, nah, he thought, can't be dealing with this. Jess should be at least helping me. Oh well, she's got the baby to look after now. He wondered. Ever since his baby girl had been born, he'd noticed that gradually he'd been getting more tired throughout the days. This is probably because he had to put on more work, which is understandable for a parent, he thought. Oh well, he thought. He stopped as he saw that Wade was squatting on a log about 10 foot up the trail. "Time already? What kind of grub have you been scoffing down your gullet?" "Whew, nasty eh, laddo?" He scooped up the muck in the black bag and tied it in a knot and dropped it into his right hand pocket of his coat. He then popped a doggy treat in Wade's gob. He looked at his watch. It was 9:30. "We'll be heading off at about a quarter to an hour, eh, Wade?" He looked at the mutt. The dog panted at his side. Suddenly, Wade's head popped up from shoulder height to full alert, with his ears erect and twitching in all directions. David noticed this as he could see the outline of Wade's ears in the corner of his eye. "What's up with the kidder? Smelt a squirrel?" David chuckled. Wade then suddenly stopped and began looking around, ears twitching left to right, and his nose inhaling and exhaling air, in and out, with steamy clouds floating around his streamlined head. David turned around. "Oi, what's got into you? You dumb mutt, come on now." "It's not new, you've been down here before, kidder," David said as he looked at his dog. Wade then bowed his head down as he looked past his owner, and then began growling fiercely. He then slowly stalked, edging towards something. "Oh, calm down, you dumb mutt. There's nowt," David began, and then Wade's slow stalking turned into a gallop, and then into a running, as he charged into the darkness, up a small hill, with David stumbling behind him, calling after him, "Oi, Wade! Wade! Get back here, you fucking stupid dog!" And then Wade disappeared over the hilltop and down the other side. "Bloody hell, what's gotten into that dog?" Angrily, David panted as he trudged up the hill. He wasn't unfit. He was a medium build of 125 pounds. He'd had martial arts training and long-distance running training as a young lad, but had packed it in after becoming interested in cars, booze and footy in his teen years. "Christ, this ain't as good as I hoped it was," as he caught his breath. "Wade, where are you?" he shouted as he breached the top of the hill. There was a barking close to where Wade was, he thought, as the dog aggressively barked and howled, for no reason, as it seemed to have chased an animal or something. Suddenly, the dog went quiet and yelped. fuck's sake, David groaned. Stupid dog probably got himself caught in something, he muttered, as he trudged down the hill, almost slipping on the mud a few times. He walked towards some bushes, off to his left, diagonally, 35 feet away. Wade heard Wade last. Dear, he thought. He had assumed the dog had stopped barking after becoming tired, and maybe realising that the small animal had gotten away, or maybe they was imagining something. Dumb dog, he thought. The ferns around him were about 5 to 6 feet tall, David guessed. That's odd, he thought. No animal noises. No birds, squirrels, no nothing, he pondered as he got closer to the bushes where he thought Wade was. He stuck his hand in about 20 centimetres into the bush where he thought Wade was. He pushed them aside. Now then, laddo, have we... Oh, shit! He gasped as he looked upon Wade's corpse.
The dog had his throat torn out as black, thick blood gushed out from where his louse used to be. Even in the darkness, David could see the dog's stomach had been ripped open, and his intestines had been shaken and torn and emptied of all the poo. The stomach, liver, and heart were all gone. Wade's face had been ravaged beyond recognition. That much David could see. Oh fuck! Wade, no! David began to blubber and blabber as his companion lay mutilated on the mossy floor of the forest. Shit! Come out, you fucking piece of shit! I'll have you for this! David roared out, hoping to attract the attention of his dog's killer and give them a right beating. Suddenly, David heard a rustling and a thumping of feet pounding towards him off to his right in the bushes. The bush tops shuddered and shook, moving apart as it came closer and closer towards him. What in God's... was David's first thought, before a black shape slammed into him and a sharp pain hit his right thigh as he fell to the ground. Ah, fuck! He cried. He shone the faint phone light on his leg where he could see a gash several inches deep into his flesh, oozing out blood, and he could also see the bone in his leg. Ah, shit! Fucker! He roared. David could hear something directly behind him. It was the same sound of the footsteps and the bushes rustling, coming towards him, but this time it was fast. David ran, but he couldn't run quickly as his leg was holding him back. He powered up the hill as shock began to set in. He stumbled and fell into the mud as his leg gave way. Ah! He cried, and he stumbled back up to his feet, tried to carry on, but couldn't. Suddenly, the shape slammed into him again, and this time it latched onto his right shoulder. The pain was immense, as something ravaged at his shoulder, tearing into the flesh and muscle. He screamed out, and the shape left him. David got back to his feet, and quickly watched all the blood from his muscles squeeze out of the wound. Oh God, help! Help me, please! David cried, but no one responded to his calls. David began to panic as he shone the phone in all directions, looking for the monster, looking for the person. What kind of person could do this, he thought. And then it hit him. What kind of animal could do this, he thought. He shone the phone just off to his left and saw the bushes beginning to part. No, fuck, please, no, he babbled as tears streamed down his face. The shape bounded at him, jumped right on top of his chest, and the two thudded down into the mud. David's phone flew out of his hands. He then looked up at his dog's killer, but first he saw the foot on his chest. It was a sickle-curved jet black claw with mud and blood dripping from it. The claw was connected to a foot that was covered in brown scales with 3 other claws on it. 2 off to the right, smaller claws, and a smaller claw up the ankle. The scales stopped a few inches up the leg as they became black, fuzzy, thick fur. David then looked at the face of the monster and saw the yellow eyes of the half crocodilian, half bird-like head piercing into him. The monster then leaned down, hissed, snapped right onto David's head. David screamed. The beast let him go, and then the sickle claw went straight through his coat, into his stomach, pulled back, and revealed David's innards. The creature then dove its head into David's insides, pulled out, with David screaming as blood poured out, spat out of his body. David felt the pain, and he slowly began to close his eyes, not before seeing two more of the creatures join their fellow monster and begin to gorge on David's body. David's life left his body. David and Wade were never found again, and months after, many more people went missing in those woods. To this day, no one knows what happened to them. No one knows.